What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Black Latino here today for part 2 of my downtown tour of Anchorage, Alaska. So if you've not seen my first video, I basically talk about First Avenue, 3rd, all the way up through 4th, and a lot of the tourist spots that are there. I am now finishing up that with a tour of 5th, maybe 6th Avenue, and talk about Earthquake Park. So those who aren't familiar with Earthquake Park, we'll be getting that too in a second. But right now I'm kind of in the middle of one of the more popular places when it comes to tourists and downtown and staying in vacation spots. So right behind me is known as the Captain Cook Hotel. This is downtown off 5th Avenue. It's one of the most popular, it's one of the more popular hotels that a lot of people will stay at. And also there's the Sheraton Hotel, which is the next avenue over. That's also another popular spot because from here there's a lot of tours that go around. So as you can see, there's some buses back there in the background. A lot of the wildlife tours and stuff will stop over here, and a lot of people coming from the airport, they will come over here, and this is where they all get dropped off at. And then there's a lot of tours that you can go. There's also a railroad train system down off of First Avenue, which if you haven't seen that video, I'll drop a link down below for that. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend that. Anchorage, like I said before in my first video, there's nothing wrong with Anchorage. Anchorage is an amazing city, very bustling, very busy, especially during the tourist season, which is usually around between March and usually July, August is usually when it's the busiest. And it does tend to get very sunny here during the summertime. So if you're not ready for that, I'd recommend, so during the summertime between March and usually around say end of August, close to September, we get around 18 to 19 and a half hours of sunlight. And let me correct that, we actually get around 19 and a half hours of sunlight between those months. And then as it hits towards the end of August, usually around September, it tends to get a little bit less. But right now we're still busting around 17 hours right now, it being almost the end of July. So it's starting to get a little bit darker, but it gets very bright here. So be prepared for that, especially if you're used to going to bed at like say 8 or 9 o'clock at night. You're gonna get a rude awakening because it doesn't really get dark here. We get like a twilight, but nothing beyond that. So we're just going to take a nice little walk now and we're gonna take a look at Earthquake Park, and then also talk to you a little bit about a lot of stuff that goes on in downtown. So right now we're on the opposite end of 5th Avenue. We're actually towards the end of 5th Avenue. So it's a lot of places down here that kind of shut down, other places that have not. It just depends. As I said before, back there, that is the Captain Cook Hotel. It's one of many hotels down here in downtown. So there's also lots of office buildings and places like that. There's also like nice little cafes. We also have our courthouses over there on the opposite side, so we'll probably take a little trip down over there as well. But there's a lot of parking down here, so if you're looking to get a rental car, be aware that there are tons of parking spots, but you do have to pay for it, except for on the weekends when it's free. So if you're ever planning on like just wanting to come down here over the weekend, or if you're staying somewhere else and you want to come down here, parking is free pretty much through all of downtown between Saturday and I think Sunday night after a certain hour. But there's tons of parking garages, tons of buildings. There's a BP building right over there, or at least it used to be the BP building. I don't know really if it is anymore. Right now we're just kind of close towards where Earthquake Park is, but there are a lot of homes down here as well. I don't know if I mentioned in my last video, but we were down on First Avenue, and so there are tons of new condos that they're kind of expanding around downtown Anchorage. So if you ever thought about coming and living in Anchorage, especially downtown, it gets very expensive. And we're talking rent, we're not even talking just houses. Rent here is pretty pricey because if you want to live downtown, it's mostly for the views, which again I'll show you in a minute. So as you can see, we've got like apartment complexes here, there's some down over there, there's a few over here as well, but there are tons of spots where you can, if you thought about ever living downtown, you can, but it is very pricey to live down here. Not to mention traffic can be kind of a pain, so keep that in mind. But other than that, we're going to take a trip down to Earthquake Park. So the reason why they call it Earthquake Park, and if you're not familiar with it, is the Great Earthquake of '64, which is, I believe, the second highest rated disaster in U.S. history. It pretty much leveled most of Anchorage. And so when we're going to be traveling down this little path, That is a result of the 64 earthquake. So we're going to get into that. There's also a lot of like little small places around here as well. A lot of bikers, a lot of stuff. You get like little shops and stuff with people who you can get like bikes. You can rent bikes and you can ride around downtown, which is not too bad because I was in LA about a month ago, and doing that there is a little bit more of a pain. So it is kind of hard to want to do that. And I'm actually walking when I'm not supposed to be, but it is kind of a pain. In terms of downtown, there's a lot to do in terms of riding bikes. So there's a little bike rental place down here off of L Street. That's another good spot that people will rent bikes and they can go ride around. And it's actually kind of fun. I've never done it because I live here, so there's no reason for me to ride around when I can actually walk. So right now we are walking actually down a street. So as you can see here, as it goes down an angle, everything here is a result of the 64 earthquake. This all got leveled and flattened out. We're actually going to go take what is known as the coastal trail, I believe it's the Tony Knowles Coastal Trail, and kind of show you the result of that and kind of what it looks like now. And as I said before, tons of apartments and stuff, condos that they're constantly expanding here because it's all about land downtown, and you get to see all these amazing views. So as you can see out there, you probably won't be able to see it as well, but there's mountains, there's the Alaska ranges, you get that view living downtown. But to live downtown and see that, it's going to cost you a lot. So, but it's a nice, it does make for a nice little kind of excursion. There's a little like park over here where there wasn't, I believe a couple of years ago, I think before COVID, like in 2018, 2019, there was no parks here. So they just built a park here to kind of keep like a lot of the homeless people at bay and keep them away from this area, because a lot of that happens. Not too much, but it is kind of nice. And like I said before, condos. You'll find tons of condos all over the place. So, and we'll see what some of these look at. So as you can see, here's one right here, nice little condo. That's almost $1 million for this. It's about $940,000 is what it would cost if you want to live in downtown Anchorage and get views like this. Like I said, living in downtown Anchorage can be pretty pricey, but if you make good money, it's definitely worth it. Now, there's tons of jobs up here for a lot of people to do. A lot of people move from other states to come up here, but rule of thumb also is because we live so far up here, shipping and handling is usually going to be the one thing that you'll kind of have to worry about. And believe me, shipping and handling can be very expensive, especially when it comes to big and bulky items. So like furniture, TVs, and things like that, it's better just to buy it locally. But when it comes to things that you can get off like Amazon, eBay, things like that, it's not too terribly bad. Usually with Amazon, there's free shipping, and we also have an Amazon building that they just actually built up here. So there's an Amazon hub that a lot of this product gets shipped overseas, because we are the central hub for pretty much everything overseas, Asia, Japan, places like that. That's generally where you'll get a lot of Amazon stuff. So when it comes to that, Amazon, things like that, perfectly fine. But anything else, generally, that's the downside, is you're going to be spending a lot for shipping. So right now we are actually on our way down to the coastal trail. As I said before, more apartments. So you will find a lot of apartments and things here, but it is pretty pricey to live down here. So you also get like these nice little like historical little things that you can see on a trail. You can kind of sit there and read them. Kind of gives you like what Anchorage was like back in the old days. But the one thing about living downtown, especially this close, is there are railroad tracks here. Although you don't get railroads, you don't get trains that come here a lot, but during the tourist season, you will get a lot of trains. And if you like to sleep in, I could tell you right now that probably won't be the best thing, because it does tend to get loud. And usually when it comes to trains, it depends on what they're hauling. It can get kind of crazy. But other than that, it's not too bad. I usually come down here during the summer anyway, just to kind of walk around. I did a video here a couple of years ago during, I think, spring breakup, and I was just kind of talking about downtown. But there's a lot to do here. Right now we're just kind of cruising the trail, and like I said, in the summertime, it's not too bad. You get a ton of people that walk up and down around here. Now, the one thing that you also got to remember also is because this trail is being shared by everybody, is that you got a lot of bikes that come, back and forth. So you got to mind that the way you don't step in front of a biker and then, that creates an accident, and that would kind of suck. So I'm going to show you why they call it Earthquake Park. We're going through a tunnel, so I do have the ND filter on, so I don't know what it's going to look like with the ND filter on because it is dark. You don't usually put an ND filter on at night, but yeah. Also, most people are really good at letting you know that they're, coming in. They'll always tell you on your left or on your right, so that's actually kind of nice. You also get people on scooters, which is actually kind of fun. So this is what is known as the flats or mud flaps. This is the result of what happened in the '64 earthquake. So this all used to be normal land like you see back here. You'll probably notice how it slopes and there's a bunch of trees that used to be all just straight land. But after the '64 earthquake, it pretty much just leveled this all. So everything out here is nothing more than mud flaps. It's just mud under there. It looks like you can walk out there because you see trees and stuff, but it's actually very bad. They actually have signs that actually warn people not to walk out on the flats, because if you do, you will get stuck. And if you get stuck and there's no one around to help you, you're pretty much going to be you'll be done. So, but other than that, you can also see, there's usually going to see some boats out there. You see like a lot of trolleys, some fishing boats, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it because the trees are blocking it, so we're going to step out onto the rocks. But you want to be careful even stepping on the rocks. You don't step out too far because you don't want to slip and fall. And again, you might not be able to see it. Probably might have to get to a better spot, but there's also a well, you might be able to see it a little bit over here. There's actually a the Alaska port is actually over there, and I don't know if I mentioned in my last video. I probably did. That's where we pretty much get all our domestic goods, and they get shipped pretty much all over Anchorage, most interior, Palmer, Fairbanks, Wasilla, places like that. That's where that all comes in. And then over here, just where I'm pointing at, that's actually the Ted Stevens Airport. So when you're leaving Anchorage, you're actually flying this when you're flying over downtown. Not all the time. I'd say probably 80% of the time you're actually coming this way. At least every time I fly out of here, it's usually the opposite direction because we're flying kind of over my house. That's what I've always had this ever since I've flown out of here. But generally 9 times out of 10 when you're flying out here, it's pretty much just over the range. You don't even notice what we call the sleeping lady over there in the back. You might not be able to see it with the camera, but the reason why they call it the sleeping ladies, and if you've ever seen pictures on this on Google, even if you use Google Maps or just general Google search for it, it looks like a lady laying down. From this end down, it's like her hair, and then at the top, you'll see a little bit of her, it looks like a head, and then it dips, and then it looks like, it looks like her throat, and the rest of her body just kind of lays out. It's actually kind of cool. You don't really see it a lot during the summer sometimes because it tends to get cloudy here. Sometimes in the summertime, it's not the same as like California, Florida, Texas, where it's sunny almost all the time. It does tend to get dark, or it does tend to get cloudy a little bit, but the temperature is pretty moderate. It's usually like 67, 70 is as high as it usually gets. It has gotten hotter before. It's gotten into the 80s in the interior. So if you ever go to Fairbanks, it does tend to get almost into the 90s there. So if you're not used to that kind of hot weather, get used to it, especially in Fairbanks, because it does tend to get hot. But rarely does it ever get like super, super hot. But in Anchorage, usually around 67 degrees. This is right now, it's extremely humid over here, so that's why I'm just not used to this, because usually it's not as humid as it is now when it comes to the summer. So yeah, so we're going to take a little bit further walk down and just kind of show you what else you can see when you're walking the coastal trail. So as you make your way down towards on the trail, as you can see, there's lots of houses. These were actually built well after the earthquake, so it makes good to have earthquake insurance just in case, because although we don't get earthquakes a lot, still up here it's more prone than probably in most places, especially where you live at. But other than that, it's not too bad. But most of these condos are pretty pricey. They're not cheap. And again, you get all these nice little, you might not be able to see it, you get these coastal trail markers, tells you how far you've been, how far you've gone. Then you got like the municipality stuff, and then again, there's a train track here. So if you do plan on living down here, especially on the First Avenue or down closer towards the park, you will get every once in a while, you'll get the occasional train that pops by. Not a lot, but you will get it. So just be prepared for that, especially if you're sleeping. So, but it's not, like I said, too bad. And you get an amazing view. I mean, you see all of this. In the wintertime, you don't really see too much because there's not much to see. But in the summertime, especially during breakup season, which is like around March, it's a little bit, you can see a little bit, but like I said, not a lot, but enough to see. But usually it's constantly the airplanes, because they're constantly taking off, especially this way. That tends to get a little bit nervy. And then also further down, you might be able to see it now a little bit better. But again, I mentioned this in my previous video. There's a port which is kind of right over there. Also, Elmendorf Air Force Base is there. So every once in a while, you'll get fighter planes and AC-130s, AC-5s, kind of doing like maneuvers and whatnot. So be prepared for that as well. Not too bad because they don't really come this far over, but they do fly. They do fly usually around downtown because the base is literally just a hopscotch over, maybe like a mile at best. So, but you also get occasionally, sometimes you'll find a moose walking around in here. It's not often that you'll find a moose, but you will find a moose every once in a while. I haven't seen any bears downtown recently, at least the years that I've been here. I've never seen a bear come down here, but mooses, every once in a while, you'll see them walk the trail, and people will, you know, take pictures and whatnot with it. So it is kind of fun, but like I said, it really just depends on when you're coming down to Anchorage. So as I said before, in the summertime, it's great. It does tend to get a bit warmer, usually 65, maybe 67, as hot as it gets. And it's just mostly just the humidity, and we don't get as much as, like I said, California or Florida, where it's always humid and then the temperature's like in the hundreds or so. It does tend to get not as hot, but it's still fun. So, and like I said, people, you know, you sit out here. Most people, like I said, they don't go out into the mud flaps, and it usually lets you know that, because if you get stuck out there, you're pretty much done. So, coming up to another spot that I usually like to just kind of just sit at. Depends if there's anyone there, because usually there is. So you usually get signs, you know, people take their dogs out and stuff, and usually you have to make sure your dog poops, you gotta, you know, clean it up. And then again, you get these nice little signs that say dangerous waters, mud flaps, you know, you don't want to get caught out. There you go. You don't want to get caught in there, because if you do, once you do, you're done. But there's a lot to see out here. It just looks really boring to me. It's just mostly just mud flaps. It's kind of nice to see, but again, you get to see the Alaska ranges and stuff that you don't normally see unless you come downtown, especially if you come downtown during the summer. And depends on what the weather is, but it's a little cloudy, but it's not cloudy that bad where you cannot see stuff. And occasionally, sometimes you'll see military planes. You might not be able to see it because it's too small, but occasionally, like I said, you'll see military planes kind of flying. Right now, there's like a C-5 Galaxy, probably about to land, but you can't see it because it's too small. It's too far away for the camera to pick it up. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to now head back to 5th Avenue, and then talk a little bit more about what goes on downtown in 5th Avenue, and just kind of what you see as a tourist and what you see and things like that. So now we're heading down towards 4th Avenue. Now, I didn't go this far down in my last vlog, but this right here is known as Simon & Seaford's. You probably never heard of it, especially if you are new to Alaska. It's one of the better establishments to eat at, and I've been there once or twice. I do work at Costco, so they do have like gift cards that you can actually use for places like Simon & Seaford's, the Alaska Brew House, and other places like that. So it is one of the better fine dining places to go to in downtown Anchorage. If you've never been, if you are downtown and you want to find a good place to eat, Simon & Seaford's is a good spot to try. And again, you've got more bike rental places. There's this one I just passed up. That's a very popular one. Like I said, there's a lot of buildings. You've got a lot of open spots here. We have a lot of outdoor vendors that come here during the summer, and it's open specifically only during the summer. And you can get, you know, pretty much anything that you want. There's a cafe right across the street. We're like at the butt end of 4th Avenue, so we're actually going to walk down 4th Avenue. And this again show you some of the stuff that you can find, especially when it comes to just walking around and kind of taking a tour of, you know, downtown Anchorage. So we're coming up to one place. This is called Snow Cafe. Yeah, Snow City Cafe. It's a really good place to eat at. I went there once when I had jury duty. It's a really good place. They have great sandwiches. I don't really know the hours when they are open. It kind of varies depending on the season, I think, or like the times. So it is a good spot to eat if you wanted to. If you're downtown, staying at a hotel downtown, you just didn't want to go anywhere else, it's a good place to eat at. They have tons of stuff there. See what else? You also got the gallery. That's a parking spot over there. Here's another popular place. I don't remember if this is like a bar or if it's a restaurant. Oh, it's called Sandwich Deck. So it is another popular place that you can go to if you want to get a sandwich. It's right next to the Captain Cook Hotel. Now, I don't know the hours of when this opens. I believe it closes rather early. I think maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it is another good spot to eat if you are looking to get some food, especially like during the afternoon. But they have a pretty robust menu. A little pricey, but the one thing about here is that there are no sales tax. So you don't have to worry about sales tax or anything like that for places like this. So you are good to go. There's also like little small coffee places. So right here is, as you can see, that is our main courthouse. This is where, you know, you go to, you know, it's a courthouse. So need more to say other than it's our main courthouse. And then that is our other courthouse. And then there's the federal building further down, which I believe I covered that in my last video. But here you'll find a lot more smaller shops, mom and pop stuff. So like I said, serving breakfast and lunch all day. You just gotta know when they do it, when they serve their breakfast and stuff. You got a spa, you got tours, flower boutiques, diamond parking center. So this is where you go if you have like any type of issues with like parking and you need to get it sorted out. That is where you would go for that. So this is called Summer Boutique. It's just a little shop downtown. And then across, again, you got the Captain Cook Hotel. And then you also got more food places. Again, like I said before, this is the Diamond Parking Center. This is where you go if you have any issues with parking. You simply just go get that sorted out. This is more Alaska tour stuff. So it's right across from the hotel if you want to visit that. It's called Mythic Alaska. So it's not too bad. And then you've got another little restaurant down here as well. And we are now back on 5th Avenue, and we're going to take a further trip down. So, as I said before, this is the Captain Cook Hotel right there. This is going to be somewhat of a lengthy vlog. I'm not really used to doing these kind of travel vlogs, so I'm not going to go too far down, but we're just going to explore a little bit more so you can see some of the more finer stuffs here. And again, this is where people, you know, Captain Cook Hotel, people just sit here and they just kind of wait for a lot of travel tours, and they can go to like interior Alaska, or they go to other places and they can see what goes on downtown. So like I said, if you've never been to downtown Anchorage, it's not too bad. In the summertime, it's not really hot. Just be prepared for the fact that it does tend to get sunny, you know, between March and usually around August. So again, be prepared for 18 to 19 and a half hours of sunlight. So right now we're at the 5th and I, and you'll get little things like this also, little planetary guides, something new that we've had for the last I think year or two. That's kind of fun. I kind of like looking at them because I love astronomy. It's like one of my huge things. And we have pretty much all of our oil companies are downtown as well. So right over in that corner over there, that is the Chronicle Phillips. I believe that is still If I'm pointing it, I believe that that's still the BP building. I could be wrong. I know they changed it. I'm not sure if they changed it, but I believe that that's still the BP show place. They had a giant little sun thing on the side of it, so it was taken down. So I'm assuming probably not. But it used to be the BP oil company, so they might have moved to someplace else. Now we're coming up to probably one of the more notable restaurants that pretty much anyone in Anchorage has been to at least once or twice in their life. That includes myself. We're coming up to a place, it is known as the Alaska Glacier Brewhouse, is what it is. And if I didn't mention before, tons of transportation, buses always, this is the main hub for the buses. So if you ever want to travel anywhere within Anchorage and you don't have a car, a rental car, definitely take the buses. It's cheap and expensive, and if you're not sure where you want to go, the bus drivers are pretty good, really good at helping you. They also got little signs right here. You can scan the QR codes and it'll show you exactly where the bus goes, and you know, if that's where you want to go or lines up with where you want to go, then that's where you could go. So that's another fun place, another cool activity to do, and especially when it comes to if you've never driven in Anchorage and you don't know how the traffic is, then bus is definitely fine. But I can tell you right now, traffic here is much different than it is in the lower 48. It's not as bad. People think the traffic up here is just like in the lower 48. Actually, downtown is just a mess to drive through because you get a lot of one-way streets, which if you're not used to that, it can be kind of annoying for a lot of people. But other than that, tons of parking spots. These are not free. So if you park in places like this next to a building, these you actually have to pay for. You can do it through a mobile app, which I have is called Park Mobile. Otherwise, side street parking is always free during the weekend. But after Monday through Friday, after say 6 o'clock, it's free then. But before then, you actually have to pay for it. So this is another more famous spot. This is called the Alaska Brewhouse. It's if you live in Anchorage, you know this. You've been here. They have tons of food. I've been here numerous times. They serve really good stuff. I would definitely recommend trying the Cajun. I think it's the seafood jambalaya, I believe is what it is. I had that, and it's amazing. Here's another hotel. As I said, most of your major hotels are going to be downtown. That is the Best Western. This is also another hot spot. It's called Orso's. They make excellent food. Again, at Costco's, if you shop at Costco's, or if you ever plan on coming up here, you have relatives that live in Costco's or shop at Costco's, and they want to take you out, definitely get a gift card because we sell those there. They do accept the gift cards, but it's a great place to eat at. I've been here twice. They have amazing food. Definitely one of the hot spots of downtown Anchorage. And then over here in the corner, over here, is what is known as the Alaska Performing Arts Center, or the PAC is what it's called. It's basically our version of like a little theater. You just, I did my graduation there. They have tons of performances there, things like that. It's not what you'd expect to find in like a lot of other states when it comes to that, but it's still perfectly fine. You do get a lot of stuff there. It's a little loud. And also in the back, you also got gallery right there, and then further down, as I mentioned before, down 4th Avenue, there's more tourist stuff over there. Actually, we've never really gotten that far down, so we'll probably do that also because I didn't really do a lot of that here. It's mostly just a lot of gift shops. So if you're on 5th Avenue, it's just literally that's a walk down, and that's where you find a lot of gift stuff. You'll generally find a lot more tourists than you will anything else down here. So you've got like a lot of bars that centralize during the tourist season as well. Uncle Joe's Pizzas, Dorothy. These are like mostly like kind of like bars and whatnot. So it is kind of fun. Here used to be the 4th Avenue Theater, but they're actually turning this into something else. But that used to be a theater. Now it's, you know, demolished, and now they're turning it into something else. Don't know what they're turning it into, but it is being turned into something. And so we are now at the corner of 4th and G Street. And again, like I said, this is mostly just a lot more touristy stuff. So you see a lot more shops, bars, places like that. So I'm not going to go too much into it. But as you go further down that way, there's a few shops. Right across the corner here, again, Alaska Gift Shops is there. Furnishings, there's a lot of Alaska native stuff there. It's actually kind of fun. This is one of our courthouses, a federal building over there. And beyond that, not really much that I can tell you that you haven't already seen in my last video, but it is nice. But there are a lot of, it's more tourist guide than it is just your normal Alaskan stuff. So other than if you go to the bars downtown, then that's it. But beyond that, it's really mostly just for tourists. It's not really for us. So, but you don't really get to see a lot of also horse-drawn carriages. I only see those like in the wintertime. So you get to see one like right here. It's actually about to come this way, I believe, which is actually kind of cool. I don't really see these a lot. I think the last time I saw something like this was, I think, a couple of years ago. And I believe that was, I think, during Valentine's. They were doing like something downtown, so it's actually kind of fun. I don't know how much it costs, and I don't know the name of it. I just know that I see them every so often, so it is kind of cool to see. But yeah, so as you can see, there's not something you see every day. It's actually kind of fun. So I myself have not tried it. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But if you do come down to Alaska and Anchorage, you want to try that. I don't know really where they're located at, so you'd have to do like a Google search for it. I just know that they're mostly branched downtown. So other than that, there's not much to see that I haven't already shown you already in my last video. So we're just going to continue back up to 5th, and then we're going to finish out that. But yeah, there's a lot of buildings that are being condemned. So this used to be, I believe that was a hotel at one time, but I believe it's abandoned. I believe they're going to turn it into something else. But yeah, it used to be a hotel like a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly. It might have been an office building, because it used to have like a lot of different buildings and little shops in it. So yeah, it used to be a bagel shop. So it used to be a little small shop and all that. And I guess over COVID, it just kind of just died out. So there's that. So yeah, as you can see, it's pretty much done. So other than that, yeah. So we're going to continue along with our nice little tour. It is getting a little warm out here for me, but like I said, it's not used to being hot. It's not overly hot, but so as I said before, this is what is known as our Performing Arts Theater. It's basically where we have a lot of our shows, arts, theater, things. It's not as large as what you'd find in like most other places or most other states. So don't expect it to, overwhelm you, but it is quite nice. I wish that we had more venues that would come up here for this. It's a really nice building. I've been in it 3-4 times. It's an amazing building on the inside. And then we're actually coming up now, something new that they added to the Performing Arts Theater. And this is something that they didn't have before, but they introduced a sky bridge a couple of years back. So this right here is a sky bridge. So this is something new. We didn't have that about 4 years ago. So that's something new that they added to the PAC. So if you were done, or there was like an event or something that was going on, you could basically just walk up the sky bridge and literally just walk across into our event building, I believe is what it's called. So, and like I said, I don't come downtown a lot. There's not really much for me. It's mostly just tourism stuff than it is anything else. So then this is a bank, I believe. It used to be a bank. I don't know if it still is a bank, but this is called the Egan Convention Center. This is where we have any type of event, whether it's like stuff like Comic-Con, I said. We had something called CenturyCon, which is like a Comic-Con, but for Anchorage, Alaska. That was held here. It was held there every year until I believe this year is when they stopped doing it. So, but they do have like a lot of events that do go on here. You just have to kind of look it up, and it shows you that. And then across are known as our town square. Normally it's empty. There's not much going on there, but it being the summer, they are doing a lot of stuff. So as you can see, it's kind of all coordinated off. So we'll see if we can see anything over there, but generally they're starting to have it more of a festive area. So you're getting a lot more outdoor vendors, a lot of food places. It's cut off, so they can get like a lot of the homeless that don't go in and kind of interfere, I guess, with the normal day-to-day operations. So it's actually kind of fun. And then we're coming up to, again, more touristy stuff. So this is one place that I like going to. It's called Kabok. That's what I call it. I know the name is, I'm probably butchering it, but they have some really good sweets and they have some really good coffee. I go there during the summer or winter time. Don't really go there during the summertime. Not much to see there. But like I said, vendors and stuff. So they usually will have this when they have anything like that. They have the road just closed off. But generally 9 times out of 10, it's another way you can pass through between roads if it gets too busy or you want to do a cut. And then you have more tourist stuff. Polar Gift, and then across the street, more buildings. Club Paris. There's something called the Ginger, which is nice. So, and then we're coming up to the Fifth Avenue Mall, which is just, well, the mall. It's not really, a lot has changed since COVID. So this used to be a really good mall to shop at. It's kind of died out a lot. A lot of businesses have kind of shut down. There's still places that are still going on. So JCPenney's is still going on down there here. So you'll see it as we are. So see JCPenney's, it's still here. It's still available. So it hasn't shut down. Probably won't shut down because of what it is and how much stuff it brings in. But it's the Fifth Avenue Mall. I'm not really going to do any type of anything with the Fifth Avenue Mall or anything like this. This is mostly just Fifth Avenue and just the surrounding areas. So as you get further towards main Fifth Avenue, you got the Sky Bridge over there, which links you to the mall, and then you got more jewelry stores and more tourist stuff. You got more bars and restaurants. So you'll probably see more restaurants down here than you will anything else, because it's just, like I said, this is a downtown hub for tourists. But beyond that, there really isn't much else down here that, you know, I can think of that I would need to vlog about, other than, if you, like I said, downtown Anchorage, it's a fun place to shop, fun place to go, especially if you are your first time coming here. Definitely check out 4th Avenue. Definitely check out Earthquake Park. 5th Avenue Mall, I wouldn't put it on my to-do list, but beyond that, it's just a mall. And there's not really much else other than that. Like I said, a couple of years ago, the 5th Avenue Mall used to be a good mall, but after COVID, it has kind of just died out. So other than that, that is all that I got for you guys. I want to thank everybody for watching again. I am sorry this was a long video, but there's a lot to cover in it, and I want to thank everybody for watching again. If you're new to my channel, my name is Mike, the Tech Guy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Enjoy your week.